welcome to a brand new episode of Sequel Rights, the podcast where we take a look at the franchises that make you go, they made how many of those? And we give each and every sequel a fair trial. My name is Justin Camps, and I'm here with...
Elizabeth Helly.
And...
Tyler Hymanson.
Oh, you weren't going to be like, and John Tyler Rambo Hymanson.
I was, but I didn't have anything good. It felt forced.
Fair enough. Well, we're done. We're done with whales. We freed him enough times. He's fine.
They're free.
He's fine.
They've adventured home.
We've freed 2 whales at this point, okay? Yeah. We freed Willie, and then Willie again.
And then we rescued him.
I meant, like, the first 3 movies were the same whale.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Second movie was a new whale. 2 whales.
Right.
Yeah. But now...
He's swimming on the render farm in the sky.
Now we're taking on some very serious issues with the Rambo series and kicking things off with First Blood, which was out in 1982, October 22nd, 1982.
And is not called Rambo in any way.
Nope.
No.
It is much like Indiana Jones, where it is the first Indiana Jones movie is Raiders of the Lost Ark and has no Indiana Jones involved at all.
There is a lot of controversy going on about that right now.
Yes.
But I do believe that on some of the Blu-rays and stuff, you'll see it say Rambo First Blood.
Yeah.
But for our purposes, we're going to go with the original title of when it was released.
Yes.
First Blood. And here's the first trailer for First Blood.
John Rambo, a drifter, just passing through their town.
Morning! Headed north or south?
North.
Now jump in. I'll make sure you're heading the right direction, huh?
You got someplace I can eat around here?
There's a diner about 30 miles up the highway.
Is there any law against me getting something here?
Yeah, me. I want you to book this gentleman for vagrancy, resisting arrest, carrying a concealed weapon.
They knew he was innocent.
Starting to dislike you. A lot.
And they didn't give a damn.
That's okay, Warren. Don't worry about the soap. He's tough.
Now, if you can't tell from that trailer, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like this is one of the most, like, serious movies we've watched on the podcast.
I believe absolutely correct.
Yeah. I mean, okay, can we talk? Have you guys seen this movie before?
Yes.
I feel like I've seen it a long time ago, but what I remember is different. I feel like from different movies more. So when I started watching this, I was like, oh, this is not what I expected.
Had no flipping clue what this movie was. Like, I just assumed it was going to be like a crazy
missing in
action. Like, he was going to be in Vietnam. He was going to be shooting up and killing Asian people all over the place. That's just what I assumed. And so I'm sitting there and the beginning's happening. I'm like, okay, we're going to flash back to Vietnam and stay there, right? Because what is happening right now? And then it continues and I'm just like, what is this?
Like everyone's being a piece of shit to this war hero.
Oh my God. Like I had no idea what was going on. Like if the movie was like more than half over when I was finally just like, okay, this is what the movie's about. Like
it is one of those very much like the Mad Max movies where the first movie is far more serious and almost in a different genre than the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
This is like a contemplative discourse on PTSD, and how we treat vets,
and what Vietnam was for.
Yeah.
Well, and this one too. It's based on a novel by the same name by David Morrell, and he was inspired by. I read like an intro to one of the books, and he also talks about it on special features. He was watching Walter Cronkite at night, and they showed a news story about the troops in Vietnam, and then they showed a news story about the riots and everything back home in the U.S. And he had a thought in that moment that like these are the same story. Yeah. And what if that conflict came back to the U.S. and then. After the war, he had a lot of students that had fought in the war, and they started telling him stories about what would later be known as like post-traumatic stress syndromes, but at the time was not really being dealt with in any meaningful way. And so he kind of took those stories and his thoughts about everything and put it into this book. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're coming at with a film in 1982 that's like one of the first films to really deal with that kind of side of the of vets coming back from Vietnam. Very serious stuff.
I was just like, what? I was so confused. Yeah, like there was like 5 different times where I thought I knew what the movie was about, and then I was like, it's like at first I was like, oh, he's gonna be like looking for all of his buddies,
right.
And then I was like, well, nope, it's not that. And then I was like, okay, we're gonna see what happened to him in Vietnam. Nope, we're not gonna see that.
Nope.
And like, escaping the woods. Okay, yeah, he kind of did that, but then now there's a whole other thing, and it's just like, oh my god.
Well, because the series of events in this movie are so like, what is happening?
They're so
time?
small. I mean, they're so like the escalation just seems
It's insane.
It doesn't. It's very plausible, but it also seems batshit. It's like, really, this is where like they're flying a helicopter and trying to shoot this vagrant. Because it's like,
because it comes from like basically nothing,
right?
Like the guy
He's
was
literally
just
walking around, and then Brian Dennehy's like, "We don't take kindly to your kind around here," which I didn't even know anything about Brian Dennehy other than when they talk about him in the South Park movie, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, that guy," and I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, Brian Dennehy is amazing in this movie and
he's
amazing
great.
in general.
I mean, like they're like, and it's so funny, but like too, because like this is an older movie, right? And so I'm just like, they're treating him so bad, but like he's white. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what? But he's also white. Like,
and Vietnam vets did get treated like shit.
Right.
Yeah,
which is
crazy.
True.
And some of that gets played out, later in the movie. We'll talk about
because you would think that, like, I guess just the stereotype now is like you would just think that anywhere that's like a rural white community would be falling over themselves to help out some vet that passes through, and this was not the case in this movie or back then.
Yeah, so the movie opens on a very lonesome-looking John Rambo. Trying to reconnect with one of his old...
The only one that's supposedly still alive.
Yeah, from his unit, and he goes, and it's his family, and they clearly want nothing to do with him. And he finds out that his friend died of cancer due to Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
And the scene play... This is the secret sauce or whatever you want to call for this movie, because it sets up everything of like she's indifferent, she's upset at him because she is projecting all of the loss and the pain of the war on him. You fought it, you did it, and that's why I don't have my son. And I think that a lot of that angst did get projected onto Vietnam vets, and he's also so sweet, and he's trying to find someone who could understand. You could tell that he's been wandering. You could tell he wanted to find someone who could be a safe harbor for him, and he's denied that. And even in this last shred, seems like he's gone through, he's been wandering the country trying to find these people.
Yeah.
You don't know how long he's been going, and this is the last place that he thought he could find something, and there's nothing for him here either. And it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then so he just starts walking, and then immediately intro Brian Dennehy to come be a real charming asshole.
Yep. He even tries to, make it seem like he's helping him out. Well, I'll give you a ride. Where are you going?
Rambo is like so patient with this asshole sheriff for like, he gives him so many chances to do the right thing and just leave him alone. This guy did nothing wrong, and he's poking him, and Rambo's just like,
why are you pushing me?
All right, okay.
Why are you pushing me?
All right, fine. Like, and then like they just go nuts on him, and that's when he finally snaps. But like, yeah, they have multiple chances where this whole thing could have been avoided.
Oh, for sure. Unfortunately, so Brian Dennehy's character, what's his name, Will. He's the sheriff of the little small town, and he takes him out to the end of the town, puts him on the bridge, and Rambo turns around and starts walking back because he's just trying to get some food.
He wants food, and who knows where the next town is.
And he gets in the car, and he's like, I'll take you to a diner. It's 40 miles up the highway. And he just takes him to the edge of town.
Like, we had seen these like lovely shots of the town, and there's a huge Dairy Queen logo and everything.
The town has an entrance that says, "Welcome to Hope Holiday Land." And I was like, what?
It's a fictional town. It's Hope, Washington.
Yeah. Lots of LED neon lights in that place.
Yep.
Very cool. But yeah,
and it's Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
So Rambo turns around, and Brian Dennehy's character is not happy about that and arrests him immediately
for vagrancy, which I'm like, is that even a crime? Like, I don't even know. Like,
I mean, yeah, I think.
Yeah, it is. You can. Yeah.
And he gets taken back to the sheriff's police station, where an unfortunate series of events leads to a bunch of, we always, people joke about Vietnam flashbacks every once in a while, but that's like really what's happening in this, in a serious way in this movie.
Well, and it's like worse than an unfortunate series of events. It's like a bunch of actions that these assholes take to torture this guy for no reason. It's not like they're trying to get information. It's not like they're trying to get him to do anything. There's like, let's just torture him for fun.
That's true. Well, some of it was unclear, like if this was just part of the procedure of like putting someone in jail. I don't know what.
No. It's
like shaving.
He doesn't want to deal with their authority, and like he's like, I shouldn't be here. I don't need to be. So they're trying to fingerprint him, and he's
fingerprints. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
But shaving, fire hosing him down, absolutely not. Like that is horrible.
Choking him with a nightstick.
Yeah. What the hell?
So, but they take it all as resisting. They take it all as well. Now it's time to flex. This person doesn't want to. Oh, it's all very natural and it's all very testosterone driven. And Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, is doing a very good job of. It's one of those things where it's an actor who is, I wouldn't say he has the most range, but when he's being stoic and being a tough guy, he's very, very good at it. Yeah. And you can tell that he is trying not to get into it with them whatsoever.
He has much more range than I think like pop culture really gives him credit for. And I think most people know that. Like if you've seen, even if you've just seen the original Rocky, or like know that he has that.
Yeah, I mean at this point, Rocky's won Best Picture. Like
he's coming off of Rocky 3 before he does this.
Yeah, true.
So he's become a little bit of a like parody of himself at this point. But like I think they said this was the first non-Rocky movie of his that wasn't a complete flop. Yeah. So he, it was kind of floundering at this point, but he's very like serious and And I mean, the movie has like I hesitate almost to say like funny moments.
Oh, there are definitely funny.
Yes. There are funny moments, like just from an action standpoint that you're just like, what the heck, like, or stuff that he does that's just like insane, like from a survivalist, like fighting combat standpoint. But like you were saying before, it's definitely the most serious movie we've ever done.
Yeah. It has some pretty standard action movie beats. Like it very much it has like a little bit of Die Hard in there. It has a lot of this tough guy stuff. But the thing that's really subversive about the movie is that it's a Vietnam War vet, a war hero that we come to find out later, like someone who is highly decorated against a small town police force. It's ostensibly people that you would think on paper are good guys, or I don't know. Maybe I don't think that they're good guys.
Yeah.
You would think that they would be good guys in this situation.
Typically in these types of movies, these forces are not pitted against each other.
Especially when he didn't do anything wrong.
Yes.
Until they arrested him, I guess. But,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and like, we can talk more about this, but like the difference between Sylvester Stallone in this movie and all the Chuck Norris movies that we saw, which ostensibly shouldn't have really been funny either and had serious things, but like, I don't know, Chuck Norris like never gets that vulnerable. Yeah. Like there were moments where he's like supposed to be vulnerable, but somehow he never like lets go in the way that Sylvester Stallone does in this movie. Yep. Like Chuck Norris would have a flashback and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sad," or "I'm so traumatized," but like he was always like firm and tough. Like he never really lets go.
Yeah. Well, in this movie, like
Chuck Norris don't cry.
Yeah. Like Sylvester Stallone has a full breakdown.
Yes. Yeah. But even throughout before that happens.
But both movies do have rats.
Yeah. Oh, the rats.
So Rambo kicks the shit out of all the cops.
Yeah.
And very easily, might I say.
Well, and like it gets to the point where he's being choked, and then they're basically put a nightstick around his neck, and then they're trying to forcibly shave him dry with a straight razor.
Yeah.
And this is the point where the PTSD kicks in, because like he's trying not to hurt anybody this whole time, but then has a Vietnam flashback and goes
when he got sliced across the chest.
When he got sliced across the chest, when he was choked,
but that is so horrible and terrifying. Anybody would have that visceral reaction to someone approaching you with a straight razor, like that you don't trust, and you're being choked.
And the guy with the straight razor says, "Hey, don't move! You might slit your own throat."
Yeah.
Like, come on.
So he goes ape shit on these cops
Yep.
and kicks 5 guys' ass. Like,
He John Wicks them.
he John Wicks them. He really does.
This is so crazy that apparently he actually did accidentally break one of the guy's
Yes.
noses, and that guy has a bandage for the rest of the movie.
Which apparently in the book is the beat that happens. He actually does break the nose. It just actually happened in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm sure Sylvester Stallone was very sorry and you know whatnot. But we should also mention that we have baby David Caruso is
That's right.
the little Ricky cop. Yeah. Which is the only thing I know David Caruso from. And so when I saw him in the opening credits, I was like, oh, David Caruso's in this movie. And then he's probably on screen for like a good 3 or 4 minutes before I was like, oh, that's him.
Oh, yeah. That's
He's a little, like, you know, ginger boy, like, and he's the one being like, I don't know if we should do this, guys. You know, like, this seems wrong.
I also saw Bruce Greenwood in the, credits as a guardsman, number 5, and I was like, I never would.
He was
find
one
him.
in the National Guard.
Yeah. But Rambo escapes. We get a sweet motorcycle chase into the forest.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
This motorcycle chase is crazy. There's so much unnecessary air.
He's like getting chased by the cops, and he runs the motorcycle into the woods and up a hill.
Yes.
For quite some time before getting off.
Before we fully leave the police station, too, like one of my favorite moments of the movie is like Sylvester Stallone's already knocked out like 3 or 4 of the guys, and another guy comes running around the corner. And he's like, "What the hell is going?" And then he just gets kicked in the face and falls down like as he's turning the corner, like mid sentence. So I really want a gif of that. But
one of my another favorite thing, I was tempted to call this ADR the movie.
Yes,
because there's so much like redubbed voices, and a lot of it is just really funny.
The car chase is crazy too, because yes, Sylvester Stallone gets so much unnecessary wheelies and air in this, but when he goes over the train tracks and then the car does it so high, like it's insane. Apparently, like they shot this once and the guy like was horribly injured because the car went so high that then they had to film it again. And the one in the movie is the reshoot that is supposed to be more realistically lower. And it is so high. This car goes like 10 feet
it's like a Blues
tracks.
Brothers type flying car thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they just, for some reason, they bring out everything they've got just to chase this guy into the woods.
It's insane.
There's one guy the guy who was really being like the main aggressor in the whole, like, other than the main sheriff, there was like this old guy, and he was the one that was like holding his neck with the nightstick and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that is in the helicopter shooting at Sylvester Stallone, and like, it's like, you need a helicopter to shoot this one homeless guy, ostensibly? Yeah. Like, that is just...
It's crazy. And the whole time, like, the sheriff, Will, is, like, yelling, like, stop shooting! What the hell are you doing? I told you not to shoot!
Yeah, but then
this guy's like, I'm gonna kill
the
this
old
bastard.
guy kind of goes rogue, and even the helicopter guy's like, this is unsafe, I don't want to drive the helicopter in here. And the guy tells him, like, if you don't fly this thing right, I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. And the helicopter pilot's like, all right, you know? Like,
But, we get some insane stunt work in this scene where there's people falling off cliff edges, falling through trees.
It's nuts. I mean, well, because basically it's like Rambo's up, like, and you find, and I read something in the book where, like, a lot of the guys in the police office, the police officers were vets of the Korean War, and you're supposed to be vets of the Vietnam War, and, you know, different tactics, and there, you know, all these other things, and it's like, but he's so backed up into a corner here that he basically is behind a tree, knows he's about to die, and is like, okay, well, I have one shot, and he throws a rock at a helicopter.
Yeah.
And it ends up working, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it's not like, yeah, he's so smart. It's pure desperation.
Yeah, for sure.
well, and...
But, like, the movie does such a great job of having him on that night. It's like, I'm in survival mode. Like, I am in pure survival mode. Like, I'm now locked into this. This is what's happening.
And I think that the guy on the helicopter did shoot him, which is the titular first blood that was drawn. And then, he throws the rock at the helicopter, and which causes, of course, the helicopter driver to flinch, and then the old guy falls out and really hits the rocks bad in a
He goes head first.
brutal way.
Yeah, it's really rough.
Yikes.
Rambo also lets go of the ledge and jumps down because he's got nowhere else to go.
Well, and before this, as he's running through, like, he gets to the edge of this quarry, and, like, he was just trying to run. Like, he was not trying to fight them.
Fight back, yeah.
Yeah, and so, he gets backed into a corner, then they fly in the helicopter, and he's like, okay.
Guess I gotta jump.
Yeah.
He even... God, it's making me think of Aladdin. He's like, all I gotta do is jump!
Well, Sylvester Stallone did apparently like 75% of the stunts in this movie, and this is one of them.
Oh my God!
They show. I saw in the behind the scenes they have photos. They had these huge air blow up things, to try to catch him.
In case he didn't catch the tree.
And I guess they did it like 4 times.
Yeah.
And on the last time, he actually broke a rib and punctured his spleen, falling on the tree. Apparently he had to go to the hospital a bunch during this shoot.
Oh my God!
But he's a trooper.
Yeah,
That's a crazy stunt.
Oh, yeah,
It's
also
like one of those old stunts that you're like, people would not do that.
Also, apparently, the piece of canvas that he turns into a coat, because he's shirtless when he escapes into this thing, was just a piece of canvas they actually found in the woods.
Yeah.
that he wore the entire time.
So
yeah,
awesome.
and the other thing too is this whole movie, you don't know from looking, but they do a good job of making you realize, it's freezing.
Yeah.
Because when he runs away, he's soaking wet and he only has a tank top, and so he grabs this shitty piece of canvas because he's so cold, and then the cops are freezing cold, and it rains at one point, and then at some point the rest of the movie, Brian Dennehy is wearing a luxurious sheepskin and
an awesome
leather,
jacket,
fluffy,
I love that jacket.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and it was cold in real life there. It wasn't like they were pretending.
yeah, but his jacket is just so ridiculously luxurious at that point that you're kind of oh man.
Yeah, it's
you're
one of those up north jackets.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah.
Anyways, I got distracted by the fashion. So Rambo goes to examine this dead guy's body that fell off the cliff, and he's like, oh crap, and then he sees all the other cops gathering at the top of the cliff, and he even gives them another chance, and he's like, look, this guy fell. I did not even kill him, which there's no reason for them not to believe that, because it is pretty much impossible that he caused the guy to fall.
Yeah, he jumped on the helicopter and threw him out.
Yeah, and so he's like, this guy died. I did not kill him. There's already a guy dead, and I didn't want that to happen, and I just want to leave. Just leave me alone. I will leave. Call it a wash,
Let it go.
Yeah, and he's like, let it go, and and they're like, oh, okay, and they shoot at him more, and they don't let it go.
The cops in this movie just have the bloodlust.
Yep.
Like George Washington. They're just they're every chance they get, they're just unloading bullets on him for no right after he has that speech.
And Brad Dennehy's like,
shoot.
fucking stop
yeah,
it.
It's the other
but
two
it doesn't
guys.
matter. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, the other two guys are so mad the old guy got killed. But yeah, Brian Dennehy and David Caruso are kind of but the whole time where there's this helicopter, there's all these rifles, they've hired a dog guy to come, and I'm just like, well, this is your tax dollars at work.
Yeah.
Hope Washington. Okay.
Well, and that's the thing that kind of happens here, because then the cops are kind of in for a penny, in for a pound. They realize that if this guy gets out, then they're all kind of fucked. And so Brian Dennehy kind of locks in of okay, well, we're gonna get him. And then he keeps saying we're gonna get him alive, but he keeps escalating.
I guess once that one dude died, you'd have to have some explanation well, how did he die?
Yeah.
You can't just let the dude run off.
Yes. Well, no.
Yeah, and then you've got the helicopter operator that knows what happened.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well.
Exactly.
And then, so the first guy the dogs go first. He kills the dogs first.
Yeah, we enter the predator phase of this.
Yeah, it's very long.
I thought this was amazing.
It's amazing.
Really good.
It is amazing.
He basically
picks them off one by one.
Yeah, he draws them towards him, first with the decoy and then just other ways.
And then puts them in places where he's going to wound them and then make them yelp out in pain to sow confusion and then pick them off one by one.
He stabs the first guy in the leg and he's just like, wow!
But he doesn't kill them.
No.
He just I think he kills the dogs, but he just disables everybody else. Yeah, all the humans he only disables. He doesn't full on kill them.
Yeah.
He stabs David Caruso in the butt, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. I just love the scene because it all happens so fast and they fall for the traps so easily.
Yep.
Yeah, he like Home Alones it in the woods.
Yeah, he even set up like some crazy like spike thing that comes out.
Yeah.
And hits the one dude in the legs. Like they get fucked up.
They get really fucked up. Yeah.
To the point where they decide that they got to call in like the National Guard.
Yep.
And like army people and everything.
And then a colonel shows up and says,
Which I was like, at this point I was like, oh my god, they're involving the National Guard. This is getting out of hand, you guys. But I love the like when they first pan out and they're like they're showing a newscaster.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, right here in the mountains, possibly above the snow line, lies a hidden, vagrant.
And then, like, the police aren't giving details of how things got escalated.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, like,
of course they're not.
Rambo, he puts like dirt, like eye black kind of situation on, and he camouflages himself so good. He basically like makes a ghillie suit like out of the canvas, and he puts like leaves, and then he like jumps out of the bushes at some point to get one of the guys, and it is so funny.
It was really funny. I don't know if like I watched this in like super HD or whatever. It was like I think they did like a 4K restoration.
I watched it on Apple TV.
And I don't know if you could like when the movie first came out, if you could easily tell, but I could see him hiding on the ground and stuff. In this like super HD, I was like, oh, he's right there. I could see his head. But maybe when it was originally in theaters, might not.
I only rented it off Amazon in SD because it saves you $1, and I did not see him. I was like, whoa!
That's great. That's great.
So Troughton.
Yes,
Colonel Troutman shows up.
Oh man,
Colonel Campbell from Metal Gear.
Yeah, Metal Gear.
He reminded me of that guy so much. I was like, oh my god,
that's probably what he's based on.
I'm sure.
His speech is so. It's like William Shatner as the first
amazing
speech that he delivers.
So, did you guys know? Like, so originally this part was for Kirk Douglas.
No, I didn't know that. That's awesome though.
Oh, and he was like, because he was. I was in the special features. They're talking about how like in the international film distribution at the time, Kirk Douglas was like a bigger star and bigger draw. So they had cast him as this, but when they got him on set to start filming, he wanted to make all these changes to the movie, which we can talk about later. And eventually they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And he like fucking like middle of shooting, just like walked off and was like, got in a plane and left.
Oh my God.
And they called in, the
Rock
guy
Hudson.
who took over.
Well, they tried to get Rock Hudson. He was too sick. And then
they got Richard Crenna. Yeah. And he came in like, one day. It was like day of like, hey, can you do this? Cool. All right, let's get you here. And now,
so apparently the whole
lines.
first day he was just asking the script supervisor to feed him lines, which you can tell.
Yeah.
In this first scene, he gets better as it goes on, but this first one, you're like, what is this guy's deal?
He sounds so
He's a robot.
Yeah, he sounds so stilted, but it's like gives this weird quality to it. Like maybe
it does.
Maybe this military dude would talk like this. Like when
you don't trust him. Like you don't know what he's going to do.
He's like,
it's like this guy doesn't even know what he wants to do.
He's like, I didn't come here to save you or to save Rambo. I came here to save you from him.
He's my boy.
But I believe this is the part of the movie where they find out that like, oh no, like this is not a vagrant. Or like,
someone calls in like, hey, I saw him on the news and actually,
actually, like he's like
he's
highly
got a
decorated,
Congressional Medal of Honor. Yeah,
he's a Green Beret.
Yep. And I guess that happened before he traps all of them. I guess they know that he's a Green Beret before that. But
they start finding out little by little.
Yeah, because David Caruso's like, let's not go
out
there.
He's
just like, the Green Berets are fucking serious. But this is where, and that's the point where Brian Dennehy doubles down. He's like, no, like, well, he can't control this narrative. We have to get him.
This is my town.
Yeah.
But I think honestly one of my favorite parts is Troutman's like description of like how badass this guy is.
Oh yeah.
Like, like he can get a knife or gun. He's like, he's been trained to ignore pain.
Yeah.
He's like been trained to ignore weather and all this stuff.
Well, and I love how he's like, well, like our four guys are just like, then quite honestly, he fucked up. Like, because like he's trained to kill no matter what.
Yeah. Well, if you guys are going to send out 200 guys, you better make sure you bring something else too. He's like, what? A bunch of body bags.
Yeah. That's a great line. Don't forget to bring more body bags.
Yeah. I was like, yes.
And so they bring in the National Guard, which like sounds threatening, sort of. Until you remember that the National Guard is really just like a bunch of randos that come in for like one weekend every 2 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
And which I love that they acknowledge in this movie. They admit that the National Guard is like no threat at all. And these guys are like, they're like, okay, go in there and get him. And the guy's like, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah, I think this might be my favorite.
This is the best part of this movie.
Scene in the movie. Yeah, Rambo has like cornered her has like holed up in this mine.
yeah, they chase him into a mine shaft.
And the National Guard show up and they're like trading like volleys of bullets back and forth.
Yeah.
And the National Guard guys duck under this trench and they're all laying down. The guy who's in charge is telling them like, all right, Marshall, you go up into the mine and stop him. And he's like, they're like, hell no. And then he turns to the guy next to him like, hey, Steve, get up there in the mine and go check this out. And he's like, I only volunteer on the weekends. Like, I don't want to.
Which is almost everyone in the National Guard.
It's just a moment of great comedy in this like very serious movie.
And then so they basically like, fine, we won't go up there. We'll use the rocket launcher.
Yeah.
Even though they've been told like, don't do anything until Will gets there. Like he wants to be there.
And the fact that the National Guard even agreed to do this is just like so ludicrous. Right. It's like you're attacking some just one dude that is one of our citizens. It's not like you're guarding the nation.
I believe,
you're just one
I believe
dude.
that's all on the authority of the sheriff. Like,
yeah. I mean, I guess once that one guy died in the beginning, it's like, and then he was doing all those attacks. It's like, I guess they would be going in with lethal force at this point. But in the beginning, it's like, why are you trying to kill this dude?
Yeah. Well, and he's also spinning it like, he's off his rocker, like he's killing people.
He's a maniac.
Well, and it also reflects too on like the overall theme of like, well, okay, why did Rambo and everyone have to do all these things in Vietnam? Right. Like the National Guard people at this point have that as their frame of reference. And so they're like, wait, why are we doing this? I'm not going to do it. I don't care about this guy. You know, like my life is more important to me than following the orders of the National Guard.
Right.
Sorry.
It's like, we're not doing the very important work of stopping communism.
Yeah.
This brings us to the mine portion.
Yes. Well, so they use the rocket launcher and they're like, get some. Like,
we
fuck
killed
yeah.
him.
He's totally dead. And then Brian Dennehy shows up like, you fucking guys, what the fuck? Like, God damn it. Like, I wanted you to bring him in alive.
He's like, I was like, oh man, Cliff's like, we're gonna have to get some guys up here to dig him out. And he's like, no, you're doing it right now. You better get started if you got to get back to work in the morning.
No, which leaves one of the best lines in the movie is just like, I gotta be at the drugstore in the morning.
Yeah.
Like,
better get started.
And then he literally takes off his hat and throws it like a little boy. He's like, man, I gotta take this corpse of a war hero out of this mine from the rocket launcher.
So much firepower. There's no way there'd be any body left if they had hit him.
Yeah. Right. It's so stupid. But they got to get that confirmation.
And so everybody knows that, so they believe that he's kind of dead. And then Troutman is kind of sitting at a bar, like another neon bar in this small town that apparently has like Las Vegas neon signs.
Yep.
And he's sitting there drinking, and Brian Dennehy comes and finds them. And Brian Dennehy's again trying to control the narrative. He's like, hey man, like, so pretty crazy, right? Like sometimes soldiers just kind of lose it, and then he's just like, "So what was that? He got killed for what? Vagrancy? Is that what it was? Yeah, that's gonna look great. That's gonna look great on his tombstone in Arlington.
Yeah, you piece of shit."
Which is a great line.
Yeah,
but also what I love about this scene is like Brian Dennehy, and that kind of ruffles Dennehy's feathers, and he's like, "Oh, you're what? You're gonna give him a big fucking hug?" And like after he did that shit to all these people, and he's like, "Honestly, I don't know what I would have done." And it's like, oh, look at you being a human being.
Yeah.
I guess it was supposed to be a bigger plot point that Brian Dennehy was like a veteran of the Korean War, and thus he resented Vietnam vets because nobody gave a crap about Korea. And like there is one shot where you can see his Purple Heart like in a frame in the background, but he never actually says anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out they didn't get Rambo. What? He's alive as fuck inside this dark mine.
Turns out you can't get Rambo.
You can't get him. Not even the mice can get him.
No.
Or rats or whatever they were.
Although they got him better than pretty much anyone else in the movie did. Like he was freaked out by those rats. I mean, it was disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. He makes a torch. He crawls through water.
I was having a lot of fun seeing like how he was going to survive this entire movie.
Yeah.
because you get that speech from Chapman about how awesome he is, and we didn't talk about the scene where we see him kill a wild boar.
Yes,
and
much like Luke Skywalker does.
Yes, it was very Star Wars.
He makes a very big spear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I was having a lot of fun just seeing like, how is he going to get out of this? And like, oh, he's like, he found maybe like one bucket of something that might have had some oil or in it for those lamps or something. And then he's like going to use most of his clothes to make this torch. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome.
Yeah, he's got this huge hunting knife that I guess becomes very iconic from what I've read. It's not even in the book, but it becomes an icon based on the movie. But yeah, he like sets a piece of cloth on fire and then like swings the knife around so that the cloth goes around the knife, and then he uses it as like a torch. Like, it's really
so
funny.
Cool. And the knife has like a secret compartment in the
it has a hollow handle with
and it has a needle and thread, so he can do his own stitches in the wilderness.
So badass. But yeah, he kind of walks his way through the mine and encounters some rats, which is gross.
A lot of rats.
A lot. It was really gross.
And like to the point where he has to like duck down, get in the water. They're in like, so like the rats are okay. There's a way out because there's rats there.
Real rats.
Yeah, rats are always a good news, bad news situation.
They were real rats because there is a rat wrangler in the credits.
You could tell they were real, and they're like on him, and it's like gross. It's so gross.
And yeah, they're gnawing at him, and he grabs one. And he's like, and then throws it.
Get out of here!
And then he gets out.
Yeah, he finds a way to climb out. And at this point, everyone's like, "Oh, he's dead. Time to pack it in." And some of the cars are leaving, the army cars, and he hops in one and like commandeers it in a pretty hilarious way.
Yeah, and the guy's like, he's like, "What do you got in the back?" M60, and he's like, "Okay, get out."
Perfect. Get out of here.
And the guy's like, "Wait, I didn't do anything," and he just throws him out. And like, and the guy's terrified to be thrown out of this moving vehicle.
I mean, why not? I would be.
Yeah, and then he's just like, all right. Yeah, he just like walks away after he gets out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get Dennehy, someone gets on the horn and be like, "So you know how we thought we killed Rambo?
Look,
he's like, well, we didn't do that in the slightest."
Someone, I think they say something like, "Sounds like someone pulled the pin on it too early," or something like that. He's still alive.
So basically, he has to call like martial law and tell all the citizens to go into their homes.
Yeah, I love that he has like some sort of like broadcast system.
Yeah, like an emergency.
Just goes out through the whole town.
In a small town, you might have that.
Get off the streets! There's a killer.
Give me my Dennehy's.
And at first, okay, so Rambo's driving this truck, right? And he's like coming into the city, and he just swerves and like hits this like gas station, and I'm like, what is he doing? Because he just crashes totally into this thing.
I'm like, why is he doing that?
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I feel like we might have some competition for biggest explosion going on there for sequel rights.
Everything Rambo's for a reason.
That's right. We get a huge fucking explosion. He blows up the gas station along with all the cars and everything. It's like a series of explosions.
Yep.
And it can't possibly have been completely intentional either, because it's not like he went around with a can like spreading the gas everywhere.
Right.
Like it kind of just like there's gas everywhere because it's a gas station, and every car like starts getting blown up in succession. Like,
and the gas is just like shooting out of the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it's
well,
so cool.
the police are even saying over the radio, they're like, we don't know how many deposits were actually underneath that gas station, so this could be going for a long time.
And it's fun this part was so fun to see Rambo like going around the city, like setting up all these distractions and making Brian Dennehy think he's like over here, and now he's over there, and then he's systematically taking out the electricity in the town.
Yep.
And he's gonna blow up the just in case they might go to the ammo store and get more guns. They're gonna
that was great.
blow up the ammo store. Which also has neon lights.
It does.
Called the
and
Outpost.
he's shooting all the Transformers out, and then Brian Dennehy starts to get crafty. He starts to be like, I can see what's happening here.
Well,
he's destroying the town. I shouldn't try to stop that at all and just let him go. I'm going to get this guy.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, like, at this point, Brian Dennehy's character is, like, so freaked out that, like, he's in the police office, and he, like, is looking around, and he looks up, and, like, I think, he's like on one point like thinking, I should maybe go on the roof so I can get a better vantage point. But at the same time, I think he's also like, he might already be on the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause he, like,
Everywhere
pulls
he goes in, he's like, he's already here. Like,
yeah,
he starts-
he like pulls down the stairs to go to the roof, and he pulls out a gun as he opens it. Like he's right there already. And I love that he's like Rambo's like stoked this fear in him.
Yeah.
it's so great.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah. Oh, you know what? We skipped a pivotal scene in this movie. When Troutman actually I think that's even before the mine and everything, where he's out there and they try to get the colonel, who is Rambo's old squad leader, to get him to talk to them, to break radio silence.
They talk to him over the radio, and it's like almost mean the way that he does it, though. He like decides to start calling out the names of all the dead guys and their old signals and everything, like instead of just being like, "Hey, Rambo, it's me, come out," you know, like it's kind of
well. I think in the course of the movie, we're not supposed to know if he's the liability for Troutman. Like he might want to kill him as much. I think
Because Troutman's a very mysterious figure.
Yeah. Yeah, like it seems like that he might just want to wrap up his mess. Maybe Rambo did some shit in Vietnam that they don't want to be out there either. Like, so.
Right. Because it is really weird. Because it is really weird that Troutman shows up totally by himself too.
Yeah.
Like, he's not there with like a bunch of other army people. No
Yeah.
one, like he could just be some dude in a costume. Like
I've bought a hat.
They just take him at his word. You know, like he's not there in seeming any official capacity or anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's another great line too, where like when Troutman's talking to Will, Brian Dennehy's character, and he's like, "Only one of us could survive this fight," or whatever.
Yeah.
And he like implies like, "It's not you, man. You're gonna die if you try to go fight Rambo."
So when Troutman's kind of reaching out and doing this radio thing, we get this thing from Stallone, which is a pretty great performance, where he contemplates, and then it seems like that like a dam of emotion just breaks for him. Like he can't help but respond. It goes against everything in his training, and like the gravity of that really plays well in this moment. And he's like, "They're all dead. Everybody's dead, sir." Like, and you can tell he's questioning it, and then he basically has this is the full down breakdown that we were talking about earlier.
Well, not quite.
no, not the.
Over the radio?
Yeah, it all happens at the end.
It's not really that much of a breakdown.
Yeah,
over
but
the radio.
he does. Like, even the colonel's like, "Oh, what about Danbury? He survived." And he's like, "Nope, he's also dead." And he's like, "Oh,
He says
well,
something
I didn't know
like-
that."
Like the war killed him and he didn't even know it, or something.
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Which is a super sad way to put
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it all leads up to this like final confrontation. Will Brian Dennehy, he's up on the roof, thinks he's got like the drop on Rambo, but of course he doesn't. Rambo's got a bigger gun. He can shoot straight through the ceiling and shoots Brian Dennehy in the leg or something, and he falls down through the light, the glass ceiling there. And we get this, Troutman shows up to finally have a conversation with Rambo face to face. And this is where we get this like final breakdown that I think for me like really helps to elevate the movie. Like the whole movie you've been thinking about all of the, things around PTSD and Vietnam, and none of those things have really been said out loud at all up until this point. Like they all come spilling out of Stallone's character in this like amazing like kind of like flow of consciousness.
It's just like
monologue.
basically like an old school monologue.
Yeah.
Like you could be like, "Is this on stage?" Like
For
he
sure.
just goes for it, and the colonel doesn't really say much back.
And it's really kind of shocking too, because there was that like one moment where he seems like maybe a little bit vulnerable talking on the radio in the middle, but the entire movie you could be like, oh, like you could say like, oh, Stallone's like he's not doing anything in this movie. He's just kind of like,
yes,
his eyes and face are so like just focused on the mission, and he's so like straightforward and stoic, and like even when he's talking he's just like there's like no emotion. There's almost no emotion on him at all. And it's like a wonderful trick to see like, oh no, like this is like making this final scene even more powerful when he's like he can't stop himself from crying, and he's just like saying all these random memories that he had with the war, and it's like really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And like the performance is really good.
It's incredible, yeah. Apparently this movie was like all over the place with like the writing and the editing, and like it got rewritten 100 times. And if you actually believe, the crazy IMDb trivia, like literally every single actor was the one considered for the role.
Well, they said that on the special features, that this was like, at the time, it was like considered a cursed project. It was like the most optioned script around. It had been optioned like 26 times, and people had written so many scripts. And
well, it's completely nuts. It's all over the place, like in tone, but also like any actor in any of the roles, either the Brian Dennehy role or the Sylvester Stallone role, would have to be like, do I really want to do this? Like, what am I saying? What is this gonna do? Like, it's a vet, but he's like attacking the local police, and it's like, okay, or I could be the sheriff, but like I'm attacking this innocent guy, and it's just like, it's like all over you don't even know if the colonel's evil or if he's good. Like, there's really no winners in this thing. Like,
well, and it sounds like
Welcome to America.
Seriously.
For this for the version of the movie that ended up existing, they made some important changes from the book. Like, I guess in the book, Rambo is very much more like like really crazy maniac, and actually like kills. He like lays waste to the city and kills all these cops. Like, in this movie, he doesn't actually kill anyone.
No, so Sylvester Stallone is the one that reportedly brought in all the PTSD and the hauntedness and the the confusion.
It seems like the movie actually improved upon. I mean, I haven't read the book, but from the sound of it, it sounds like it improved on the themes that the book was trying to bring out. But, but did maybe like went a little bit too violent in the book.
And then apparently, like, the first cut, Sylvester Stallone supposedly hated it so much that he and somebody else recut the entire thing again based on just what they had. And so you can sort of feel that disconnect throughout the movie, especially like the ending is so jarring, and you're just not really sure if you're like, is that because of all of the cutting shenanigans, or did they really just mean for it to be like that shocking and just like completely, because it just pretty much just ends after that speech. Like, it's like, all right, like, Brian Dennehy doesn't even die, really. I mean, he gets wheeled off into an ambulance. He's still alive. And then, Rambo just walks away with the colonel, and you're like, and it just ends in freeze frame of him, like, looking pensively into the distance.
Well,
like,
and the ending was actually even more shocking originally.
Okay.
There's actually an alternate ending on the Blu-ray, too, that matches the ending of the book. In the book, Colonel Troutman kills Rambo at the end.
Yeah.
And they shot this in the alternate ending, and it's really kind of messed up. Like Rambo, it's after this, he's had this breakdown. He stands back up and goes up to the colonel and grabs the colonel's sidearm and like holds it in front of him and says like, I want you to kill me. I don't want them to get me. Like, it should be you. It needs to be you. And he like points the gun at his, abdomen, and basically puts the colonel's hand there like to pull the trigger. And the colonel goes to turn to like, because he can't do it. He like goes to turn, and Rambo pulls it back and makes it fire, and he dies. And that was like the end. And I guess they like tested out that at a screening, and everyone was like, "Who the fuck made this decision? You can't like." They said someone in the audience was like, "If the director's here, he should be burned on a stake."
Oh.
Like
No,
why
I
would you
mean,
make this
that
decision?
makes more sense in like a narrative sense.
Right.
Like, you have that catharsis at the end, and in a way, by not doing that, it like leaves everything kind of like in limbo, and it has more of it makes it more allegorical for the Vietnam War. And like, there's no winners, there's no resolution, everyone's just fucked up.
Well, and they
now.
said, which I'm sure you guys felt this way too. Like by the end of the movie, you're like on Rambo's side, and you want to see him like maybe have a chance at like a normal life after this.
Maybe, but at the same time too, like, if that had happened, you would sort of see it as like a mercy killing.
Yeah, it would be it's just really depressing.
It does just like, it leaves it more open to
For sequels.
But I also like when the colonel, we don't know what their relationship is, and so like we don't know how much resentment there is. So like, there's
probably not a good one.
No, and that's the thing. It's like there's a part of me that's like, well, I think that there's a part of Rambo that wants to kill Troutman.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And I think that leaving that open, and I think that it's one of those things that maybe even makes him like, it brings him even further into the PTSD, and like hearing him, it brings him even further. Like that leads to the assault on the town, and so having that resolution, I think this ending's better.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think it is too.
It's been. I mean, we even at this time too. It's like who wants to have like a super depressing ending? Like, why not put something more ambiguous and potentially hopeful out there?
Right. Also potentially more depressing.
I don't know. Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it's actually more depressing that he doesn't die.
But it's open. You can do what you.
Yeah, but you could think that maybe he's gonna go get some help. Like there's room for that. You don't know what's going on. He's just being walked out.
Apparently, he's going back into the field.
Well, yeah.
Oh no, but like, yeah, I almost see it as like more depressing that like because I not that suicide's not good.
But yeah, I was
living is good, but like I think it's almost more depressing to be like. There's not going to be a solution to this.
Here at Secret
but you don't
Rights,
know that.
We've taken a firm stance. Living is good. I think
that him asking to be killed is more depressing than him living at the end. Like,
well, that's the difference between you and me. Okay,
that's fucked up. That's fucked up. That is fucked up. I think I don't know. I would like to be hopeful that he would have got some help potentially.
Well, guys, I think we might get to find out.
We might. Wait, before we go, we got to talk about the music.
Okay.
Not just the terrible song that's at the end of the credits.
There's a lot of contemplative horns throughout this.
But the score, I think, is really great by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yes.
Who, has done...
Has he done a movie before?
So many movies. So many amazing movies. And I just think this is like a classic score. That
it is.
I wish... I don't think it's like... I looked on Spotify and they have, I'm sure they put out the score for this at some point, but on Spotify you can only see part 2. But I just love, it's like there's got some like Western elements and then also this like great, like, I love the like sneaking piano, like doom, 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 that like goes throughout all the chase scenes in the trees and everything. I really enjoyed his work a lot on this. But not they turn one of his themes into this like pop song at the end. That is sung by Dan Hill, which
I never talk about this because I always forget, but I have been maintaining this entire time a Spotify playlist of all of the movies that we've ever done, soundtracks and songs. It's very Purge and Step Up heavy, but everything is on there.
Nice. So. But yeah, the song at the end was just ruining it for me.
Yeah, it was very cheesy.
It's a long road, or whatever. Like, it's just look up the lyrics. It's bad.
Yeah.
What a way to end the movie. I was like, oh, okay. And it ends on a freeze frame too.
It does, as was wont to do in '82.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do we have a rating system for this one?
Oh, let's see.
How about the jacket?
How many rotting canvas jackets?
Oh, no. I was thinking of the luxurious sheepskin jacket.
Oh, yeah. How many luxurious sheepskin jackets?
True North jackets.
Would you give First Blood?
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I almost want to give it a 10 out of 10, honestly. I think this is a really important movie.
They drew First Blood.
They drew First Blood. Especially hearing some of the, people who are, I'm not a critic or anything. So listening to the behind the scenes special features where people were talking about the importance of this movie at the time, that it was really, one of the first movies to deal with PTSD in this way. And it came about in a time where people were finally starting to realize that, like, oh, I think we fucked up in the way we treated Vietnam vets and everything. So, they credited the movie with helping to change people's opinion about that in a way. And I think that's really important. And it's just like, it's knowing what Rambo becomes, having seen some of the other movies, it's just extremely fascinating to see this like place where it started in such a serious way. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to go 10 luxurious sheepskin jackets. I think that it is... it has all of the pacing and all of the set pieces of a blockbuster action movie. Like it said, it has the beats of a Die Hard. It has all these things, but it actually has a message behind it. And I don't think that the message is force fed or entirely. It's not easily distilled down. I think that it's complex and it opens the conversation. And that is everything that I love about movies. It is wildly entertaining, has great scenes and action set pieces, and offers something to a collective cultural conversation that I don't think is that I believe is a net positive. And I think that that's hard to do, and I feel like that a lot of movies that, as much as we love them that come out now, fail to do exactly that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it. Oh gosh, I was originally gonna say 8, but I think I'm gonna give it 9. Luxurious, fluffy sheepskin coats. I thought this movie was great. Like I said, I knew nothing about this, so the whole time it just like kept me on my toes because I was like, wait, what? You know. So there's that, and yeah, it's just like really shocking, like how bold it is with the chances that it takes. Like I guess they eventually were rewarded with returns because the movie was very successful, but like when they were making this final cut, like somebody had to have been like, we can't do this isn't successful, you know, like the studio or somebody, or maybe they just had given up so much at that point that they just gave over like so much creative control to Sylvester Stallone, which is for the better, I think. But yeah, it just I think though I really could have used a little bit like of tightening of the narrative, I guess, like, because I mean, in my personal opinion, I would be like, it doesn't really surprise me that these cops are being such jerks for no reason. But I mean, I think the movie maybe could have just shown a little bit more of their motivation, just so that the beginning wouldn't seem so like just
you're just like, they're just shitty people.
Yeah, like I mean, especially back then when I think people didn't really have as bad of an opinion of the cops as we do now. Maybe in some cases,
82, I'm sure that they did.
Oh yeah, and it's supposed to reflect the lingering, like he says at the end, people were protesting outside the plane when he arrives, calling him a baby killer.
Yeah, which is
like
crazy.
That. So
yeah, it's unfortunate.
But
also reflect.
It's also the time where all the problems that Brian Denny has of the issues of, oh shit, like we tried to kill a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, is if we just kill him in the woods, then nobody has to know.
Yeah, let's cover it up.
Yeah, but anyways, I did really, really like it, and so I'll say 9. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, it just so strikes me how not racial the movie is. Like, because I'm just like, wait, he's white. Why are they doing this? It's just crazy how now it's like, I just don't believe that these white cops would do this to this white guy. Like,
well, they still had hatred for, you know, the Italians and Irish.
I mean, it's an Italian thing.
Like, yes, like we've condensed white people into white people, but there was still a lot of hate to go around.
No, I know. It's kind of crazy how it's not racial, but now, like, we've actually regressed, you know, even though this was however many years ago. It's like, I would expect it to be worse now, which is like so sad.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to call in the National Guard to get a rocket launcher, so that's part of it. Well, anyway,
like Elis said, this movie was super popular at the box office. It had a budget of like $14 million, and it went to be the top film in theaters 3 weekends in a row. Yeah, making about the same amount of money each weekend. It was like $7 million. And it ended up being the 13th top grossing movie that year, which is crazy. I think
it was even bigger internationally because other countries were probably like, America, totally, shoot each other for once.
A crazy American stunt movie. So it did really well, and so that means we got sequels.
Not just a sequel. We have a part 2.
Ooh, yes. Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Coming at you next week.
It's a lot of numbers.
Yep. So many numbers. And I think by this point they had put the Rambo title on there. So
can't believe it's not Second Blood. Talk about your missed opportunities.
If the next movie doesn't feel like a part 2, I'm gonna be like, why?
I don't think it's going to.
I know.
I know nothing about what's coming other than what you guys have alluded to, so I'm very cautious.
Yeah, I don't really remember. The only one I did see the Rambo 2008 when it came out in theaters, but yeah, we'll see.
We'll find out.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Sylvester Stallone was at my master's graduation, and I walked right by him as I was.
I was
going to
say, were you on a conference call with Sylvester Stallone?
No, but we are pretty good friends. No, just kidding. He was at the graduation, and then when they announced his daughter, everyone like cheered for her extra because it was like obvious who she was. But I totally like made eye contact with him, and it was one of those things where it was like the celebrity being like, "Don't do it," you know. Like, I'm not that I was going to, but like I could tell that I was because the master's people come in first before the undergrad, so I was like in the first group, and I totally saw him, and I had the like, wait, is that like, you know, moment? And then I was just like, oh, I got to keep walking. Not going to do it. But I did get kind of like a really far away picture of him later on. So I'll post that.
Is that Sylvester Stallone, or did a geriatric ape make it in here?
Oh,
terrible.
He's so huge.
He is huge. Oh, I forgot to say other amazing things on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
There is a How to Become Rambo Part 1.
Oh my God.
And it's like the trainer. It's like Sylvester Stallone's trainer on there showing you the workouts that he does, that he did to get ready for part 2.
Is that part of Son of Rambo?
No, I wish that was part of the franchise. That'd be so great.
So yes, email us at sequelrights@gmail.com. We're going to be with Rambo for a little bit, but we still need your ideas for future franchises. And also connect with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sequel Rights.
And please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. We love stars. Give us stars.
But yeah, anyways, I guess we'll be back next week with more Rambo, more blood. Not Second Blood, First Blood, Part 2.